Hello again. Just got back from church services on Wednesday night. Went well. The pastor there at the church attending in transition here is teaching on Revelation on Wednesday nights. Got through verses 5 and 6. Good stuff. Christian Persecution and Martyrdom II, lecture 14b. It's listed as part 1. I don't know if that's right. So I'll just say part 1. There may not be a part 2, so don't be alarmed. That caught me off guard. I just got back from church services. It's getting late, so I thought I'd get this in. But anyways, Africa, Cameroon, and Sudan. Again, there may be a part 2 to this. Just see the lecture notes, and hopefully it makes sense. Cameroon. Now, I included this for at least one reason. A new couple attending the church I attend. I met them last Sunday night and chatted with them a bit, and the wife is from Cameroon. I asked her, is there Christian persecution in Cameroon? She goes, oh yes. So I said, well, I will include that in my Bible college repertoire. While Cameroon is officially a secular country, there are predominantly Muslim areas where Islamic extremism is growing. So you can see in the map there where Cameroon is. It's on some ocean there. I don't have it blown up enough to see it or far enough away to know what ocean, except I know it's an ocean. In the north, the extremist group Boko Haram, a lovely name, isn't it, is a violent presence, abducting, attacking, or killing Christians, as well as disrupting church activities. In other areas, security injunctions have set heavy restrictions on church activities. Strong governance is lacking in Cameroon, adding to the vulnerability faced by persecuted Christians. Christians who convert from Islam suffer persecution across Cameroon and are at great risk if they tell anyone about their new faith, or if Bibles are discovered in their possession. For the nominal Christians in America, they'd be like, oh, I can't tell anyone about my faith because I wouldn't want to get persecuted, and they'd just be fine with not saying anything. Well, they face this risk both from the wider community and their immediate family. Women who convert are often forced into marriage with non-Christians. Well, how are you forced into marriage? And there are cases of children of Christians in the north being coerced by Muslim relatives to attend Islamic classes. Oh, I see Nigeria's up there. You got Central African Republic next to them and Chad kind of on the side there. I don't think we're covering Chad. Cameroon is ranked number 44 of the world's worst countries to be a Christian in, according to Open Doors. It's top 50. Is your country top 50? America is not top 50. Oh no. Now let's go on to Sudan. Okay, this has got some issues. Red text. Sudan has been ruled as an Islamic state by the authoritarian government, black text, since 1989. Under his charge, the president's charge, the country offers limited rights for religious minorities and places heavy restrictions on freedom of speech or press. The last year has been difficult for Christians in many ways. I guess it's like 2020, 2019, somewhere in there. There have been arrests. Many churches have been demolished. Buildings, I guess, have been demolished, and others are on an official list awaiting demolition. And many Christians are attacked indiscriminately in areas like the Nuba Mountains, where there is an ongoing conflict between government forces and rebel groups. Red text. Christian converts from Islam are especially targeted for persecution. So this is similar in about every Islamic country we cover. So to keep from being discovered, converts will often refrain from raising their children as Christians, or obviously as Christians. They're going to raise them as Christians, but not obviously. They're going to put them in Christian schools. They have them in the Muslim schools. Now, is that right before God? Well, He gives us wisdom, so I'm not saying it's wrong. But I could take either side of the issue on that. Black text, because this might attract the attention of the government and community leaders, since children might inadvertently reveal their parents' faith. Sudan is ranked number 13 of the world's worst countries to be a Christian in. Sudan is actually the former northern Sudan region, prior to its separation from South Sudan which was in 2011. I may be wrong. Thus, in this section, we are referring to Sudan, the former northern Sudan. So you can see there in the map, not the greatest map, but anyways, so South Sudan, North Sudan. Kind of like South Korea, North Korea, but South Korea is Korea. Since the 2019 coup that ousted Omar al-Bashir, who ruled Sudan for 30 years, the situation for Sudanese Christians has somewhat improved in the sense that the government has changed its policy of considering Christians enemies against and agents of the West. However, there are systematic issues that affect Christians. First, while government policy has changed, social attitudes about Christians have not, especially outside Khartoum, which shows in the map there. That's the capital, I think. There, the culture and surrounding society are still majority Muslim and suspicious of any other faith. Second, the government has not put real protections into place for confiscated churches, and lands have yet to be returned. Okay, I missed that one. Second, the government has not put real protections into place for Christians and other religious minorities. For example, even with the change in official status, confiscated churches and lands have yet to be returned to their Christian owners. And trying to build new church buildings is still extremely difficult. It's even harder to build new churches. Church planning. And finally, there are still high-level military leaders who have slowed reform. Sudan's Christians were persecuted under various military regimes. Sudan's civil wars temporarily ended in 1972 but resumed again in 1983 as famine hit the region. 4 million people were displaced and 2 million people died in the 2-decade-long conflict before a temporary 6-year ceasefire was signed in 2005. That's horrible. 2 million people needlessly killed. Anti-Christian persecutions grew particularly after 1985, including murders of pastors and church leaders, destruction of Christian villages as well as churches, hospitals, schools, and mission bases, and bombing of Sunday church services. Wow. Just think, you show up for church services and don't know if you're going to be bombed. Lands laid waste and where all buildings were demolished included an area the size of Alaska. Red text, despite the persecutions, Sudanese Christians increased in number from 1.6 million in 1980 to 11 million in 2010. Now that is impressive, despite the persecutions. Black text, 1 million people remain internally displaced, means without homes and livelihood within the country, and another million in the Sudanese diaspora abroad, of which 400 to 600,000 in the South Sudanese diaspora. Dispersion. Red text, in 2011, South Sudan voted to secede from the North. There it is. Black text, effectively 9 July. Persecution of Christians there had resumed by then. Christian women and girls in Sudan, particularly converts to Christianity, are vulnerable to rape, forced marriage, and domestic violence for their faith. On a broader level, Islamic extremists have reportedly kidnapped Sudanese girls for marriage and or sexual slavery. Inside the home, converts may also be isolated to reduce the embarrassment and shame of the conversion on the family, as well as to ensure they cannot meet with their other Christians. Converts will also be denied inheritance, and if they're already married, divorced from their husbands. Church leaders are frequently targeted, including reports of drugs being falsely planted on them. Christian men and boys, particularly converts from Islam, I assume, are vulnerable to beatings, imprisonment, or even murder. Converts may be kicked out of their house and shunned by their families and face intense persecution in the worst place. The Naivasha Agreement also technically protects non-Muslims in the north. However, some interpretations of Muslim law in Sudan refuse to recognize conversions out of Islam, considering apostasy a crime, and also refuse to recognize marriages to non-Muslims. Sudan is one of the nations where being a Christian is hardest in the world. Freedom of religion and belief are systematically violated. 2014, there was controversy over the planned execution of Maryam Yahya Ibrahim Ishaq for apostasy. Okay. Maryam Yahya Ibrahim Ishaq for apostasy. She was later released and after further delays, left Sudan. There was some type of church service, Christian church service in Sudan. For nearly 50 years, Sudan has carried out a brutal campaign to Islamize the nation, destroying churches, church buildings, and imprisoning Christians while seeking to implement strict adherence to Islamic law. Until recently, the Islamization campaign also included the bombing of villages, crops, hospitals, and church buildings. The Sudanese government seeks to exterminate both Christians and ethnically African people in the contested Nuba Mountain, Blue Nile, and Darfur regions on its border with South Sudan. Red text. The Islamist dictator and convicted war criminal Omar al-Bashir, just know al-Bashir. I'm not going to trick you with the first name. You know that by now. Who led Sudan's assault on Christians, was removed from power in 2019, black text, by a military council controlled by the country's Islamist establishment. That's North Sudan. It is too soon to tell if Sudanese Christians will be treated better by the new leadership. 90% of the Sudanese people are Sunni Muslims. 5% are Christians, including approximately, red text, 1/2% evangelicals. Well, Sudan and Cameroon, difficult places to live as a Christian, as all these countries we're going over are. And if you live in a country where it's relatively safe to be a Christian, praise the Lord. But maybe we need to make it so that it's not that it's unsafe, but just do more for the Lord to where we're starting to have persecution.